You're listening to Discography Discussion, episode 140, The Ghost Inside, hosted by Dan Terry.
And I didn't like it in 7th grade. I liked it as an adult. Right. But like I said, I try not to make the podcast too complicated. Like, if it makes me feel good, then I'm all about it.
Chris McCoy.
What's up? That album was perfect for a 7th grader.
And Joseph Wren. We have some sweet perks.
Money!
Presented by discussmetal.com. And if you ride the dark horse into the great unknown, then you are ready for this episode of Discography Discussion. I am Joe. That is Dan. That is Chris. Are you the ghost inside?
I mean, is this like a Deus Ex Machina type of situation here? Or is this like just the ghost inside?
Alice in Chains asked, am I inside?
Yeah, I don't know if it's like that. I will say what I think it's like. So you know how we did this episode on It Prevails recently?
Yeah.
I was there.
Have you ever been listening to It Prevails and you think like, you know, it does, but for how long? What if the ghost inside lives inside you?
That would mean I have a specter inside of me that reminds me of Gojira sometimes, hates the day other times. I think I'm okay with that.
The Gojira thing's interesting, but we'll dig into that a little bit later. We've kind of been on this track lately of doing bands. I mean, with the exception of Seven Dust, you know, doing bands that have this melodic hardcore edge to them, and the Ghost Inside fits along with that really well. We did Chai Halud, we did It Prevails, we did Hopeful a long time ago. It's no secret that this is kind of my shit. You know, these bands that are heavy but are not necessarily about ass beating, although every now and again the Ghost Inside does get a little bit into ass beating.
I'm really into the Ghost Inside. I've never been a huge lyric guy, but like it's more like inspiration core is what I would call it. These guys are very motivating.
Motivating is definitely the word I would use to describe it, because I'm ready to just fucking throw down when I listen to their stuff. And like even whenever I'm like feeling like a piece of shit, I'm like, you know what? I could do better.
Why isn't there a hardcore band called Matt Foley? I feel like the Ghost Inside could show up at your high school gymnasium and say, we are the Ghost Inside. We are your motivational speakers. This album is called Dear Youth.
Well, I think that they would be successful in that, at least for all the people that like hardcore.
Down in a van by the river.
Right. Living on a steady diet of government cheese. But to get into it a little bit deeper, the Ghost Inside, formerly known as A Dying Dream, is a American metalcore band from LA. They started in 2004, and I think metalcore is a good enough description of the band in the sense that they do a lot of metalcore things, but I definitely hear a much stronger influence from hardcore.
Oh, definitely hardcore
in their music. It's got kind of that punk mentality, a lot of the punk rhythms, and you know they like to drop out all the audio and just go straight bass for a couple of seconds. And to me, that's a very punk rock. And,
absolutely.
You know, and to have Chris on this episode, that's kind of your shit, right? Is the punk rock based type of band?
Definitely my wheelhouse. I grew up listening to like skate punk, and then morphed into more but I still like the double time, but the more heaviness in it, you know?
Sure.
Yeah. Definitely more my wheelhouse. Definitely Ghost Inside.
It's like guys throw the breakdown in there every now and again. Yeah, right. They're really good at creating a certain feeling with each track, and they've got kind of that like I want to be at their show and be drunk and kind of singing along to some of the gang vocal parts, and you know just really getting into what the band is kind of bathing in.
Right. I made a note. I know I'm jumping way ahead on the song Avalanche on their last record. I felt like that song was written to be a live song, like a sing along. Get into it. You sing back the chorus, and then you get in the pit.
Totally.
Kind of like that new Day to Remember, Degenerate song. Not really a fan of that song, but that song was written to be a live at the show song where the whole crowd sings back to you.
Totally.
It's a good version of modern metal, as opposed to the Asking Alexandria. This is the auto-tuned chorus at the start of the song. Okay, everybody dance.
Whatever, we all bought that first record.
I didn't buy it. I listened to it several times, I admit it.
I have it. I don't remember if I bought it or not, but I have it. I think what's interesting about the Ghost Inside is they're kind of a pure representation of the metalcore style from when they became a band. That mid to late 2000s metalcore sound is kind of the style that we all got into. Whenever we got into metalcore, we weren't necessarily into the clean choruses yet,
right?
Or the electronic aspects that are in a lot of modern metalcore bands.
I definitely think the Ghost Inside could have that, that cliche term, like a gateway hardcore metalcore band for some people, because yeah, they have some clean singing, like over maybe the last 2 records, but like you can hear what the guy's saying, even though he's screaming at you. And if you're not a huge Scream fan, you can definitely decipher what he's saying in his voice.
Totally.
That's important. You can tell me all day long that the lyrics are what's written on the page, but if it doesn't sound like what you're saying,
right,
you're not saying it. Unless Dan disagrees, in which case he can tell you everything the lead singer is saying.
Well, we're not really in a pig destroyer situation here, where the guy's just like screaming or puking into a bucket, and then that's the lyrics. Yeah, you can understand.
Nice clarification there, by the way.
Well, you can understand everything that Jonathan is saying. And that's important. I have to criticize their message a little bit, and then it's not the most original message in the world, which is just like kind of a be true to yourself, cut out the bullshit, cut out the drama.
I feel like in this genre of music, though, like they're way more uplifting than like your run-of-the-mill like hardcore metalcore bands. Like they definitely have a more positive vibe to it. I don't think they're necessarily going like a cliche category.
They got a bit of a cliche sound. But I agree, the message is more positive, more like a Sleeping Giant. With Sleeping Giant, if all you're listening to is the music, you're going to think it's the most intense, angry band in the world. Right. But what it actually is we are so passionate for Jesus that we're just going to shove it down your throat, and you're going to like it while we do it.
Yeah, that's why I don't listen to that band.
Well, I think that is kind of the cliche there, though. Like, what I find the most refreshing about the Ghost Inside is they're not relying on religion. They're not relying on anti-religion. They're not relying on like straight edge. They're not relying on all of these generic kind of worldviews that a lot of these bands fall into. And that's all they ever talk about. And I think that was the most refreshing thing about the Ghost Inside, is that they just kind of were able to pull emotion out of real things that we deal with as human beings, and just like the stupid shit that people say to you, and the type of fights that people try to create, the drama people try to create in your life.
Positivity for the sake of positivity.
Correct.
Yeah, it's super relatable stuff, I think, to most people.
And I think that puts them more in the Shai Hulud category of like, I hate mankind, but I also believe that mankind can do better. And so like that gives this band like a double thumbs up from me.
Well, before we return to Dune, I want to take this time to say thank you to everyone for listening to the podcast. Thank you for listening and for subscribing. If you are not a subscriber, then you can find everything Discography Discussion at discussmetal.com. We're on Spotify, Apple and Google Podcasts, TuneIn Radio, Stitcher, so if you have an Amazon Echo or a Google Home, you have no excuse. Ask it to play the latest episode of the Discography Discussion podcast, and it will. We're also on Facebook and on Twitter at Discuss Metal. Be sure to like, favorite, and subscribe. It really helps us out. It lets us know you're listening, and now Dan is going to tell us all about 5-star reviews.
Well, we love 5-star reviews here on Discography Discussion, but that's kind of just something that makes us feel better. I've been corrected over time in that I used to think that like 5-star reviews meant something. And they do. They make you feel better. So definitely leave us those reviews. However, the best thing you could do for a podcast right now is share the fucking episodes. And I don't mean that in a mean way. Like, you guys have been sharing, and that's great. And, but yeah, share the episodes with your friends and family. Just the thought of, you've got people in your friends list that probably enjoy the same kind of stuff that you do. And with you sharing the episode, you might be turning them onto a podcast they didn't know about before. So if you share the episodes, it helps us out tremendously. I'm going to get another beer real quick.
Oh, but you were doing so well.
I know, right? I can't wait to fuck it all up.
Dan, I think you should take your first beer is good photo and add it to social media. You should put it in the glass, put the can next to it, have the control board in the background, and add that to Discography Discussion Instagram. Did you take a good picture though, Dan?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. You can fucking check the Instagram. Jesus.
I'm kind of a nerd for beer photos.
You fucking guys. All right.
So, Dan, tell me about The Ghost Inside.
The Ghost Inside is a melodic hardcore band or metalcore band, depending on what you want to call it, from LA. I already kind of covered that, but they're fucking awesome. And like, They play a melodic hardcore sound that's very based in punk and hardcore, which I love. They throw some metal in there for the more intense parts, like the breakdowns and shit like that. But like, what I like about this band the most is that they create an atmosphere with their music, but they're not afraid to just fucking break down and get super heavy whenever they need to, like when the song calls for it.
Oh, dude, my favorite song on the record is Siren Song. I think it's track 7 or 8, but it just opens with a breakdown.
Oh my god, yeah.
2007, Fury and the Fallen Ones.
They didn't even build up to anything. They just broke down. And I love that shit. That is like so cheesy but awesome when performed correctly.
Ghost Inside is the perfect soundtrack if you're at the gym getting your pump on. Like, put Siren Song on just to start off your workout. Boom, done.
Totally.
You're saying it's kind of a get shit done kind of thing?
I wouldn't know that, though, because I haven't lifted weights in a long time. Used to, but...
Me neither, brother.
I just do the 12-ounce curls, my friend.
We need to, like, start, like, getting together and fucking working out. Like, that needs to happen.
Are you talking about just hanging out and doing the 12-ounce curls, or actually going to the gym?
Oh, fuck. I don't know. I was thinking of just, like, drink a bunch of beers and watch a movie. Is that the same thing as working out?
Throw a frozen pizza in there, you know?
Okay, cool. Yeah, all right. Then I'm down.
Movie Mosh, coming soon to discussmetal.com.
Totally. What I like about this band is that they're like 2 parts Poison the Well, 1 part Comeback Kid.
I like that.
You know, and that's kind of my favorite thing about them is that they retain that modern heaviness, especially on this first record. This first record is out of the gate, like, we don't encounter too many bands that are this good on their first recording, but it's hard, like, even in 2008, or 2007 rather. Fury and the Fallen Ones is a classic record for me, a classic melodic hardcore record.
One of my favorite artwork, too, on a record. I love the artwork on that cover.
Yeah. Yeah, this band got it, and it was almost like they were trying to deliver shit directly to me.
Right. Yeah, it's funny you brought up Comeback Kid, because the Goose does make an appearance further on down in the discography as a feature.
Absolutely. And, you know, that was an intentional comparison, because this band is not going to blow your mind as far as, like, if you've heard melodic hardcore bands before. They don't necessarily do anything different than what you've heard before, but I think that's kind of okay with this style, because the passion behind the vocals and just the way the songs hit is worth the price of admission, if that makes sense.
Definitely.
And they don't fall into all the tropes of, like, you know, talking about Jesus or talking about religion or, you know, for or against.
Yeah, I've seen the Ghost Inside live once. I wish I could have seen them more. Hopefully we'll get the chance in the future, because it sounds like they're working on stuff.
Yeah.
I saw them on I believe it was the AP tour, I want to say maybe 2012, 13, something like that. They were playing with Miss May I and Glass Cloud. Amity Affliction was supposed to be on that show, but their bus or van or something broke down. But speaking about passion, like, when I saw them live, like, Jonathan just on stage, like, there's no show with these guys. Like, Jonathan gets up there in just a crew neck, sweatshirt, you know, shorts, and just screams his ass off, and you can just, he's oozing he believes what he's singing.
Yeah, and that's all you need in hardcore. You don't need a whole bunch of, like, tricks or gimmicks. Like, you know, there's none of the, like, studio assisted, you know, bass drop breakdowns in there.
Right.
And they're, at least not on this record, but, like, there's no, like, it's not bogged down with clean vocals, which right. I think a lot of bands in this genre tend to do after a while, where they can't bridge the gap between melodic hardcore and pop punk.
Right.
This band does it, and how they do that is they fall back on a metalcore backing, which helps them immensely.
Yeah, I've definitely never been a big lyric guy, and I know you are, Dan. But if I can understand and pick up on it, like, I can get behind the lyrics, and, like, this is definitely one of those bands that actually do care about their lyrics, because just what they're trying to say is awesome. And I feel like some of their songs, especially, like, towards the end of this record, the song The Lion War, a lot of bands say you can, I don't know, what's the word? Interpret it the way you want, and you definitely can with, like, some of their songs. Like, The Lion War,
like the Cult of Luna all over again.
Right.
What does it mean? What do you think it means?
Cult of Luna has been in the headlines recently.
We just talked about that on Patreon.
Talking trash about a certain band, but we don't need to go there.
Yeah, we'll leave it alone. But yeah, I think my biggest attraction to this record is the bass in punk rock, which a lot of metalcore bands that came out around this time definitely aired more towards the metalcore side of it. They were going more in an unearthed direction.
More noodly guitars.
Yeah,
yes.
and they don't bother us with
Not
that
a bad
shit.
thing, but
like, it's almost got more of a Misery Signals vibe to it.
Definitely.
Than like a Killswitch Engage. And that's what I liked about this record. I love the passion. I love the way they brought it. And I enjoyed the melodic parts, because the melodic parts were genuine and not, like, contrived.
Yeah, it's just something about this band, man. They get me jacked. Like just hearing, in the background, hearing these breakdowns hit makes me want to start throwing elbows. I don't know about you guys.
Totally. I mean, don't do it in here. There's not a lot of room. Right?
I mean, do we want to have a 15-second throw elbows break?
I mean, maybe, but, oh, God, my fucking face.
That's just what it looks like, dude.
Oh, man. Okay. It hurts all the time, too. Should I get that checked out?
What's with all the mirrors in here, guys?
There's mirrors on the ceiling and then the bed in the very center of the studio. I don't know. Anyway, that's a holdover from Jeff.
Hey, y'all.
So, like, when a band puts an album like this out, it's hard for me to really quantify, like, what they're going to do next. Like, are they going to do the same thing again? Or are they going to just, like, start pushing their boundaries?
I would not have listened to this in 2007 because it is falsely labeled as emo hardcore.
Really?
It's not
emo?
that.
Is that
This record
emo?
is not. They have some melodic pieces later on, but there's nothing really emo about this
No.
band. It's like the heavy parts of Haste the Day.
Right. I don't get any emo vibe from Ghost Inside. Never have.
This is the part of the conversation where we talk about the false label of emo that was brought on in the early to mid 2000s. It wasn't under oath, if you ask Dan.
Well, I mean, it depends on what you mean by emo, I guess.
4 hours later.
I mean, I hear a little bit of that. Like, I mean, okay, if your idea of emo is like Sunday Day Real Estate, sure, it's not that. But, like, if your version of emo is more like...
The Used or
I
From
don't
First
know.
to Last or something like that?
No, I mean, like Seisha or City Caterpillar or Jerome's Dream or something like that.
You're going too deep for me, bud. Sorry.
Sorry, I'm really into emo, but, like...
But in 2007, if you didn't know
No.
any better, which the majority of the populace did not know any better, you'd hear this and say, well, it's kind of like the heavy parts of that Under Oath song, or Haste the Day would be the more accurate description in my book. I like it for that reason.
Yeah, I mean... I don't really hear an emo influence in it other than just, like, if you want to call anything that sounds punk emo.
It's metalcore.
But it doesn't...
Punk-influenced hardcore. It's metalcore.
But it doesn't have that, like, clean vocal, like... I mean, like, there's some clean vocal, but, like, it's not relied on. Like, it's not, like, a backbone of the sound.
You can't anticipate it.
And there's no whininess about, like, how your girlfriend fucked you over and you want to hide her in the walls.
Right. I mean, I think we've all been there, but we're not there on this album.
Right.
So when Returners came out, I was kind of like, okay,
2010.
how do they top the last album?
They put out Returners is how they do that.
They do that, yeah. Then
And why is Returners
they call all their friends.
topping the next album?
You ever create something really, really, really great, and then you're like, I want to do that, but I want to do it better.
Me being a meathead, the breakdowns are just more intense for me on this record.
They're fucking sick, dude. Like,
And he always has a good, like, phrase to scream out before that, the bass drop and the beat down, breakdown hits.
totally. And like they kind of perfected that. Whereas on the first record, they leaned more towards the melodic side of things. It's not that Returners isn't melodic, but they accentuate the heavy parts more so than they did before.
Right. You can't go wrong. Like in the song Through the Cracks, which is towards the end of the record,
Yeah.
screams out, "It's not fair, but I don't care. I'm not defeated." Then boom, it hits. Like that just activate the pit.
Yeah.
Shout
yeah.
out to Roach Coach. Like that's a pit activator right there.
You're allowed one.
That's the only time. That's the only time Joe's gonna allow you to say that. But yeah, totally. Like it is. It absolutely gets the pit going, and I want to throw elbows now. I didn't on the last record, and I want to now. So watch your guys' faces. But like, I mean, fucking, my favorite track on this record is Chrono.
Good record. Good music video.
Yeah, features Matt Brusso of Bury Your Dead. So like the meathead in me is all like totally ribbed out. I'm like, oh my god, you guys are gonna be heavy. You guys are gonna be like do your thing, but you're gonna be like super heavy at the same time. And they didn't push their sound forward necessarily, but they did what they did before better.
Definitely. My favorite track on the record, which is most people's favorite track, I want to thank the most popular, Between the Lines. Can't go wrong.
Totally.
What do you stand for,
Absolutely.
Dan? What do you stand for?
Well, I stand for music that makes me feel good. So there you go. I also stand for cars that run and mortgages that get paid because I'm old.
Bills, being an adult. Fun.
It's so punk rock, right?
Yeah.
Chris, earlier you said that you don't listen to Sleeping Giant. What did you think of the Conflict featuring Tommy Green of Sleeping Giant?
I don't know that I ever heard that song.
Yeah, it's track 7.
Conflict. Yeah, I know the song. I didn't realize he was featured on it.
Yeah.
My bad.
And Tommy Green's kind of one of those guys that, like, again, if you're not big into Sleeping Giant, like, I noticed it right away. I was like, holy shit, is Tommy Green on this? And that song is just so fucking heavy, dude.
Was this a record where they called their friends and said, you know what we want to do? We want to write a song for you. We want to do what Norma Jean did with Chino, only we want to do it with all of our friends.
And we want it to actually be good.
We want to write a song called The Conflict, and we're going to have Tommy Green show up, and he's going to do his thing. And it's going to kind of sound like a Sleeping Giant song. Normally, that does not work. And I'm not sure that it's a bad thing for this record, because this is 2010, where if you were hardcore, you were all in this together. And the best thing you could do would be pull in all of your friends.
Well, and he's all over the track, man. He's all over it. He does this, like, I want to say rapping thing, but it's not really rapping. It's just him, like, yelling in time with the music. But, like, I don't know. It's interesting to hear him on a Ghost Inside album. And, he's not like, bringing the Jesus thing as much, which I get a lot of fucking hate mail for this, but, like, I kind of appreciate hearing Tommy Green step out of his comfort zone a little bit and do something that's more in line with the record, like what's best for the record. And so that song is kind of a standout to me because he really brings it, and it incorporates everything he's about in one song, but it still comes across sounding very much like a Ghost Inside song.
A little fun fact about the album. I do like, it's like an old school record where there is a secret song at the end. A couple minutes of silence and then some more instrumental comes in just for fun.
Yeah.
In the day and age of where you just stream one song at a time, you don't really notice that anymore. But
well, we haven't mentioned this either, that these albums are incredibly short, like 30-something minutes each.
They are short.
They're 30-minute punk rock specials.
And I appreciate that about it because, like, if you do a podcast like this one, it's nice to be able to just go to the next album.
They're short, but from front to back, they're all barn burners.
Totally. Yeah, this band kills it. I mean, and I didn't really know what to do with Get What You Give.
2012.
Not because it's bad. Whenever I say I don't know what to do with it, I don't mean that it's bad. It's just that it is kind of established at this point that this band is going to get heavier with each release.
Well, this is when they changed labels and changed producers.
Yes.
And this is when they added in, like, the big bass drops.
Oh my God, yeah.
And
it was 2012 after all.
This is where they start sounding like another band that we covered on the show, Gideon.
Such a good band.
Totally. Oh, they used to be a good band. I mean, they're still kind of a good band now, but we'll get in. We can argue that out on the Face Down Records group on Facebook.
I'm normally not a fan, like, when a record kicks off, or even just short songs in general, like a minute and a half track. Like, I'm not usually a huge fan, but when this record starts off with "This Is What I Know About Sacrifice," like, I'm a huge fan of this song. Like, you know what you're in for. The rest of the record, just a beatdown.
I was not in the underground punk scene in the early 20-teens, but I was let in on the idea of we do these minute and a half, 2 minute, just brutal as fuck songs where it's a verse and a chorus, maybe. But it's not really a chorus. It's more like this is the beginning of the song, this is the end of the song, and 2 minutes has gone by and we're done. So I appreciated when this band does it, it's more like a piece of the overall composition. It's the anti-intro. It's the we open up the song with a breakdown. We're just going to hit you with the emotion right up front, and then we're going to go into the next song.
You're punched in the face from the get-go.
And I feel so good being punched in the face right off the bat.
Yeah, it's totally fine. I don't have an issue with it. I just have to tell myself that, you know what? Truth be told, this band is not innovative.
Wow.
And I couldn't give less of a fuck.
They're definitely not, like you said before, they're not doing anything that hasn't been done before.
Yeah.
But I think they're at the top of the game for what they do.
Correct.
In 2012, though, you don't have to be an innovator to write a good record in this style.
Well, as an Unpleasable Metal fan,
ladies and gentlemen, Unpleasable Metal fan,
I enjoy the fact that they give me the same thing every time, but just a little bit different. And I'm okay with them having, I'm not okay with them experimenting, and they don't. And there's not enough bands out there like that, where they're just trying to perfect what they did on the first album again. As a music critic, I feel like I have to mention it, that, hey, you're not going to hear a whole lot of differentiation between, at the very least, the second and third albums.
I don't know if it's because they went with a different producer, which I believe the producer was Jeremy McKinnon from A Day to Remember.
That's correct.
This album just has more of a full sound than the last two. I guess that's just adding the more bass, maybe, I don't know, but it just has more of a punch to it.
It does, and I think that's a lot of it is studio, just adding that stuff in. A lot of it sounds like it was added in post-production, but I'm okay with it because, like, I've been listening to Gideon for a while, and I love what they do, or what they did.
This is what you wanted in 2012, right?
Totally.
This is what I still want.
Yeah, that's pretty accurate as well. I mean, they're not like a band that I'm expecting, like, that they're going to change my life. But it's like a sure thing.
Are you having a circle back reaction to this band, Dan?
No, but it's a sure thing in that, like, I'm gonna enjoy this, and the band's never gonna do something really out of left field that's gonna piss me off.
Not gonna lie, if I'm at the bar and they have the touch tune system, the Great Unknown, like, if I want to, like, if it's just been like, your typical mainstream garbage that is normally on at the bar, the Great Unknown is my go-to. I'm gonna waste $1 on hearing that song at the bar just to get the looks from everyone
and to watch everybody get really uncomfortable and be
right.
like, "What the fuck is this guy's problem?"
Right.
Because even though, like, we know that this isn't like the heaviest of the heaviest that's out there, the average person that the heaviest band they've ever heard is Disturbed is going to be like, "Oh my god,
where's the bucket? I need to throw up."
Yeah, like, no shit, right? Like,
I never do this, but I think it's that scene in Dirty Work where he's like, "Looks like they're going to be a brawl. What are you playing? G7, baby." You just hit G8.
yeah, it's rough. Like, it's not rough. Like it's like, if there's a point I'm trying to make about this band is that, like, if you enjoyed the first record, you're fucking good, man.
Absolutely.
They don't have that type of, like, fanboy personal betrayal in their discography.
They're not pulling the Suicide Silence?
No, not at all. They're not not only are they keeping a consistent sound, but they're not, like, shitting on their older sound, which I feel like a lot of bands did around this time, where they're like, well, we like metalcore, but we're really into, like, soulful pop hits. That's not the Ghost Inside.
It's a two-way street, though. People are pissed if you put the same record out over and over again, but then people are also pissed if you even take a slight turn. I guess you being the Unpleasable Metal fan, you know all about that.
I mean, title of my autobiography. It's just that, like, I'm okay with it because I like melodic hardcore probably more than I like any other style that we talk about on this show.
I'm on the same train with you, bud.
So I'm gonna give bands like this a free pass. Where, yeah, you're not being innovative, but, like, I don't give a fuck because the songs slam.
But it prevails. You didn't give that same pass to.
No, because it prevails.
They're not nearly as good.
No, like, okay, so if we're going to continue that episode, It Prevails didn't deliver what they gave us on the first album. The Ghost Inside, on the other hand, delivers that same experience every single time. Which, you could say, like, oh, that's really bad, but, like, it's not, though, because, like, Slayer does that, and it's fine.
Same thing about Sleeping Giant. Every record is just the same breakdown, continued. I have no problem with it.
I would like that if they put their albums out as instrumental only. I'd be all about it.
I would, too. I'd scream along with them, like, with my own lyrics about, like, whatever fucked up worldview I have.
Your IPA glass is empty right now.
I know,
There's your lyrics.
It's a little upsetting. There needs to be a breakdown for that. I need to fill, but I can't fill. Like, it. Awesome.
I filled the cup, and then I drank.
We were talking about Comeback Kid earlier, and this is where the Goose makes an appearance.
He does.
On face value.
And I can't complain.
Are we ready for Dear Youth?
Of course.
I was born ready.
I wrote a letter to my youth, and it sounded like this. Quote, Dan Terry, 2019.
What's funny is that, like, this record is, again, if you like The Ghost Inside, you're going to love this record.
Which I do.
I do as well. I really liked Out of Control.
That's probably my favorite song, honestly, on the record. The song is a banger, but I feel like this song, not to get political, but it's very fitting where we are right now.
Oh, my goodness, right?
I know Jeff, this is not up his alley.
Jeff gets really upset whenever people talk about politics and music.
Jeff, you should go listen to the whole Stray the Path discography. You would love it.
I don't know if I have enough clips for all these Jeff references.
How you doing?
I think at this point, so, like, we've got more of the, like, studio assisted breakdowns, which is fine.
A lot heavier bass drops, just like the last record.
A lot heavier bass drops. Like, they're, again, I don't, like, I parallel what they're doing to, like, what Gideon was doing. at the same time where it was like, we're going to be hardcore bands, but we're going to throw in enough of that modern shit for people to like.
Right.
You know, and I think for the most part, they're successful in that.
Yeah, if Mercy didn't have that intro, For Whom the Bell Tolls, that would probably be my favorite track on the record.
Yeah, it's a little cheesy.
I don't like that intro, but the breakdown in that song, life's swinging hard, but I'm going to swing harder.
Right.
So awesome.
Especially if I'm drunk.
Right.
And I think for the most part, like, you can't really fault this band. It's funny, too, that you say that, like, politically, you know, it's where we're at now. And this is 2014.
Exactly.
Like, just, I have mad respect for anybody that saw the writing on the walls.
With how social media is just, like, destroying everything.
Well, it's kind of like this meme I read the other day where, like, somebody was all like, hey, Dad, why is the world as fucked up as it is right now? And the dad sits down and pours himself, like, a whole fucking tumbler of whiskey, and he goes,
watch your language, son.
All right, son. He's like, all right, son, it all started with this fucking gorilla. You know, like, they had the foresight. And it's kind of like how when Zayo wrote Xenophobe, where they're like, oh, that's just an easy attack on the modern administration. And Zayo's like, no, we wrote that like several years ago.
I was waiting on the Zayo reference, Dan.
Well, you know, it's always there, man. We're on brand every night. I think that this record, if you're a fan of The Ghost Inside, you're going to love it. I don't think that they're pushing forward, and I have to admit that, like, 4 albums in, I'm a little bit of the impression of, like, what are you guys doing right now that Gideon's not doing?
Is there going to be a next record is the question.
Well, I think there is, actually.
Yeah. I think they've been dropping hints. And if people are listening to this episode of The Ghost Inside, I would assume that they know the story of their horrible, horrible bus accident.
Yes.
That they had. What year was that? I should have made note. What year was it? Was it 2015? Early 2015, I think the bus accident was.
Yeah, it was in 2015 sometime. I don't remember the exact date.
Yeah,
but yeah,
the driver of the bus, you know, and the driver of the tractor trailer, they had a head-on collision. Both drivers died, and a few members of the band were, you know, critically injured. The drummer, Andrew, ended up losing his leg. And they finally just came back and played their first show maybe 2 months ago. I think it sold out in like a matter of minutes in LA.
Yeah.
And when I saw that posting for the show, I was under the impression it was going to be like a club show. But then I saw all these videos of the show online, and it almost looked like a festival, like huge pyro, outdoors, like just huge. They sounded awesome though from all the YouTube videos I saw. So I'm excited. I hope there's new music coming.
Final thoughts on The Ghost Inside, Chris.
If you're looking for just a gateway, like I said earlier, a gateway hardcore metalcore band that you want to be able to understand the lyrics and what he's saying to you, this is the band for you. You like beatdown breakdowns, you want to get in the pit, this is the band for you.
Dan, what about you?
I don't know how I follow that. If you like melodic hardcore, if you like bands like Shai Hulud or Heaven Forbid It Prevails, you're going to find that you like The Ghost Inside more than It Prevails.
Also, if you like the band Hand of Mercy out of Australia, and you want a carbon copy of Ghost Inside?
No, totally, yeah. No, that's a good point.
I love that band. And first time I heard them, I'm like, is this The Ghost Inside? Because it sounds a lot like The Ghost Inside.
They came on my streaming radio after like an album would finish, and I thought I was listening to another Ghost Inside album, and I was like, oh, wait, no, hold on, that's not right. They're a great example of this style, but they're not like the most innovative band in the world, and I don't think they have to be. I don't think everybody has to change our perspective on music.
The Ghost Inside is the metalcore version of Don't Worry, Be Happy. They're not trying to inspire you with religious themes or anti-religious themes, which are really religious themes just reversed if you think about it. They're just trying to get everybody on the same page of we don't all have to be shitty to each other. We don't always have to feel bad. Sometimes we can just not be complete shit. So if you are looking for a positive band that is not trying to persuade you one way or the other on the scale of religion, you can't go wrong with The Ghost Inside. It's metalcore, it's heavy, and it delivers. 4 records, essentially the same thing. You can't go wrong. Dan, what's your album of the week?
My album of the week... let me try that again.
That was great. My album is going to be Zayo.
Actually, it is Zayo.
Go ahead.
My album of the week is Pyrrhic Victory by Zayo. I've gone back through a lot of my vinyl, and that's the one I've been listening to the most this week.
Chris, what about you?
My album of the week is Enslaved to Tragedy by In Search of Solace. Just came out, I want to say, maybe 3 weeks ago on Sharp Tone Records. They're from my home state, Minnesota. St. Paul boys, doing well. If you like The Architects, it's probably a good comparison for them. Get on that train. In Search of Solace. Check them out, guys.
I've been listening to a shit ton of pirate metal this week, so My album of the week is Pirate Scum by Stormseeker. It is not Ailstorm, but it's pretty fucking close.
I have a couple Ailstorm records at home.
Pirate punk is fun. You just get to dance and sing about drinking and pillaging and sailing the seven seas. Don't worry, Dan. I didn't forget about you.
Have you ever been listening to this podcast and you thought, why haven't these assholes talked about my favorite band? Here's the deal, dude. We don't know what your favorite band is. You have to tell us. One way you can tell us, you can reach out to us on Facebook under facebook.com/discography discussion. Send us a message there. Join our official group. If you join the group, I'll probably approve you, unless you're like a weird person, which I wouldn't be able to tell by looking at your Facebook profile, so you're probably in. You can reach out to us on Discord. We have a Discord server that is hopping, and you can click on the link in our show notes that'll take you to our Discord server. You can reach out to us on Twitter at discussmetal, or reach out to me and Joe personally at discussmetaldan or discussmetaljoe on Twitter. You can also send us an email at danandjoeshow@gmail.com. So if you can't get a hold of us, it's your fault. I don't know what else to tell you.
And on that note, this has been episode 140 of Discography Discussion. Thank you for listening. You can like us on Facebook and follow us on Twitter at discussmetal. Subscribe to our podcast everywhere you listen to podcasts, including Google Play, Apple Podcasts, and Stitcher. Visit discussmetal.com for all things discography discussion, and please send questions and comments to danandjoeshow@gmail.com. If you are not a patron, you can become one at patreon.com/discussmetal. We have some sweet perks.
Money!
We have some sweet perks.
Money!
We have some sweet perks.
Money!